Hello, this is Ben Werner, and welcome to an introduction to monetary ecology. We'll discuss the present monetary structure in which we all live and work, and we'll introduce the concept of complementary monetary structures, which, together with the concept of unused resources and unmet needs, comprise two ways of looking at or approaching complementary currencies. At the end, we'll review these concepts and offer some next steps to implementing complementary currencies in your community. Understanding the present monetary structure requires understanding how the banking system works. So let's consider a simple scenario wherein a bank is lending $1 million to each of two borrowers. The $2 million that this bank is lending it creates, in cooperation with the rest of the banking system, including the Federal Reserve, through a process called fractional reserve banking. This means that all the money we use in the present monetary structure is a loan or a debt owed back to a bank. If the $2 million created in this scenario were for two typical home loans, say 2% over 24 years, then a total of $4 million would be owed back to the bank. However, since $2 million was created in total and $4 million is owed back to the bank, we should ask, where is the additional $2 million going to come from? As it turns out, these two borrowers will need to compete with each other for the additional $1 million they each owe back to the bank, and only one of them can win. The other will be forced to give ownership of their property to the bank. This culture of competition we experience as a society extends to the natural resources we depend on, and the flow of wealth, driven by the dynamic of the present monetary system, flows to the top, ultimately depleting the health of each successive layer. Clearly, this is an unsustainable system, and without a rejuvenating flow back to its base, this system will become increasingly brittle and unstable. So what is the missing half? If we were to compare our monetary system to natural systems that are sustainable, what would be the monetary analogy to the missing dynamic that keeps the whole system healthy and thriving? Which brings us to the subject of complementary monetary structures. An attribute of natural, sustainable systems is that they return at least as much value to the surrounding environment that supports them as they take from the environment. So taking a tree, for example, and considering only the function of the tree that brings value from the soil into itself, we have something analogous to the present monetary system, which has the attributes of a positive interest rate, it promotes competition, and it concentrates wealth. And yet we already know that any tree has a reciprocal function, which is to return value to the soil and to the environment. So what would be the monetary analogy of such a reciprocal function? Taking the inverse of each of these attributes, instead of a positive interest rate, we would have a negative interest rate. Instead of promoting competition, there would be promotion of cooperation. And instead of concentrating wealth, we would see a dynamic of distributing wealth. This pair of inverse dynamics, each complementing the other, and each essential to the functioning of the whole, is precisely the yin-yang dichotomy, a notion that applies to the balance and state of health of any system, be it a tree, a microorganism, or a monetary system. And what we have defined here are indeed archetypical monetary structures, which will prove to be useful concepts in discerning new paths to our well-being. Two further attributes are that a yang, or masculine currency dynamic, tends to gain power, while a yin, or feminine currency dynamic, tends to gain relationships. Neither of these qualities is essentially good or bad, but if one dominates over the other, health and harmony are lost, and we, in our present culture, have only known a purely yang, or masculine currency. We have no reference point for what a yin, or feminine currency dynamic would look and feel like. Unless we investigate some historical examples of yin complementary currencies, such as in dynastic Egypt or during the High Middle Ages in Western Europe. Each of these periods enjoyed circulation of currencies with negative interest rates. In both the case of Egypt, whose yin dynamic currency were receipts for stored grain known as ostraca, and in the case of Western Europe, whose yin dynamic currency was coinage periodically recalled and reminted by local lords, an effective negative interest rate, or demurrage, prevented this money from representing a long-term storehouse of value, and instead promoted a high velocity of circulation and full recognition backed by investment of other forms of wealth, such as the health of the field, cooperative community affairs, and quality of life. Each of these two historical periods enjoyed an overabundance of agricultural productivity and well-fed populations. The tallest Londoners that have ever existed on average lived during the relatively short 300-year period of the High Middle Ages. Moreover, nearly all the cathedrals we visit in Western Europe were built during this same period and were locally funded. The worship of Isis in Egypt and the Black Madonna in Europe, along with female pharaohs and legally empowered women in Europe during these periods, points to a cultural paradigm of balance in the masculine and feminine dynamic, which is particularly relevant given similar trends in our current society, and the possibility that we may be coming ready for this balance to re-manifest in our monetary culture as well. The strongest correlation between yin complementary currency usage and societal health can be seen at the point of demise of these historical currencies, with Egypt degrading from a global powerhouse to a developing nation with the institution of Roman coinage in 30 BCE, and in Europe, the onset of regular famine followed by the bubonic plague in the mid-1300s, following the outlaw of local coinage in favor of royal coinage. Greater detail on the monetary history of these periods can be found in the book New Money for a New World by Bernard Lietaer and Stephen Belgen. Moving now into the modern emergence of complementary currencies, and a common theme driving this trend: unused resources and unmet needs. We have compiled several examples of successful existing complementary currencies, and we encourage you to explore each of these to see how they work. You can find them under the Share section of monetaryecology.com. The common trait we want you to notice for the moment is that each of these complementary currency examples begins with a set of ingredients, which comprises a set of unused resources and unmet needs in a particular community. The currency itself is designed specifically to catalyze this set of unused resources and unmet needs to come together to produce some desired effect. In other words, these currencies are not forced on a community, but rather the needs they meet and the positive effects they create draw them into circulation. In contrast with conventional top-down solutions to fiscal crises, these solutions increase local economic liquidity without raising taxes or incurring new debt. In general, this approach to currency design can perhaps best be understood as a matter of pull versus push. By allowing the context of the community to inform the design of the complementary currency, there is a greater chance of a successful outcome. So what might this look like in your town next year? What are the unused resources and unmet needs in your community? What are the ingredients? What might the design of the currency or currencies look like? And what are the desired effects you would like to achieve? If your community is similar to our hometown of Santa Barbara, California, highlights of such complementary currencies might be affordable healthcare, affordable housing, affordable local food, and balanced budgets, both at a household level and at a local government level. So let's review what we've shared and present some next steps. We looked at the present monetary structure and its inherent dynamic of promoting competition and concentrating wealth at the expense of the health and well-being of society and the natural environment. We shared the concept of complementary monetary structures that have the potential to bring the overall monetary system into a state of greater cohesion and balance, and we shared some historical examples illustrating how a balanced monetary system can support profound health and wealth across a broad contingent of a society. We discussed the modern emergence of complementary currencies and the potential of unused resources and unmet needs to inform the design of these new currencies. And we believe that the first and most important step for each of us is to get educated on the subject of money. We are only just beginning to awaken as a culture to the reality of how the structure of money affects us and to our power to design and implement new monetary structures. This is the purpose of the Learn section of our website, and one of our best references is the book Rethinking Money by our friends Bernard Lietaer and Jackie Dunn. It is probably the most concise and readable book currently available on the subject of monetary ecology and complementary currencies. The Create section of our website offers practical tools to register unused resources and unmet needs in your community, to design new complementary currencies, and to convene as communities to implement new currencies. Please explore the Create section to discover where your creativity and resources best fit the needs of your community in this emerging field. The Share section of our website provides an opportunity to share complementary currency success stories and to learn from and be inspired by these stories. Since our mission is to assist you and your community in creating the results you wish to achieve through new monetary tools, we encourage you to share monetaryecology.com with all of those you hope to collaborate with. Thank you very much for listening, and we look forward to meeting you.